Hello, true believers, and welcome to another edition of BK's Bullets. My name is not Brent Cassina. My name is Jim Efantis, and from time to time, Brent lets me borrow some of his trade paperbacks, and I read them and review them. Now, you have to understand, my background is not in comic books, so I love trade paperbacks because they are compartmentalized stories. So when Brent gave me this comic book right here, Kingdom Come, my eyes lit up and I said, sure, let me have it. Now, this is what they call the Elseworlds universe. So basically everything in here is totally not connected to any of the other lore or any of the other existing storylines in the DC universe. Now, for a guy like me, that's a really good thing because I don't read comic books too often. So I don't know all the ins and outs and all the latest and greatest kind of stuff. I mean, I know the main guys, the Batmans, the Supermans, that sort of thing. That's where this comic book really, really draws my particular interest. So if you're somebody like me who is not a huge fan of comics, this might be the route to go. Anyways, Brent handpicks these for me, and he says, you have to read Kingdom Come. This is the definitive oh gosh, don't say that. This is definitive DC comic book. And I read a lot of reviews on it, and I was really excited for it, and I read it, and I gotta say, it was just okay. There's a couple of reasons why. Well, first of all, I'm going to go over the plot, and then I'm going to go over my opinions of the plot. There's going to be some spoilers here, but considering this book came out sometime in the 90s, I feel as if you haven't read it by now, you're not going to get it ruined here. But, okay, just fair warning, there might be some spoilers here. Now, Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross takes place some point in the future. We are visited by this ghost, and he talks to this character named Norman McKay and shows him this vision of the future in which superheroes are at this ultimate civil war with each other. What's happening is Superman has left. He's not Superman anymore. He quits being Superman and he retires because this other superhero, this guy named Magog, kills the Joker and Lois Lane and a bunch of other people. And he's put on trial and he's found not guilty. He's acquitted of his crimes, okay? And what ends up happening is Superman says, you know what? Society isn't ready for the kind of leadership that I want to give. I am leaving. And he leaves. Well, as time goes on, because Superman's presence isn't around anymore, all these other superheroes become supervillains. They kind of mismatch. And they just go into this entire civil war and begin fighting each other. While this is going on, the people's champion, so to speak, Magog, goes out and he tries to fight this other guy named the Phantom, I think his name is. I'm looking through the Wikipedia page here. And I know Brent's probably screaming at me going, oh my God, how can a Parasite? The Parasite. He goes to fight the Parasite in Kansas and inadvertently blows up Kansas and kills a bunch of people. And the world's more in turmoil, lots of fighting going on. Well, Wonder Woman finally says, hey, Superman, you really got to help out. You got to get back involved. And Superman reluctantly agrees. So he rallies up the troops once again, minus Batman. And they go off and basically clean up the world. And along the way, they build this giant super prison, the Gulag, in Kansas City, and they put all the superheroes that don't agree with Superman's vision inside there. Lex Luthor, big evil bad guy, wants to break them loose. He's starting this new thing called the Mankind Liberation Front, where he wants to basically have all the superheroes fight to the end, and then he's going to sweep in, thanks to Batman, who has now allied with him, and these bat robots. And what Lex Luthor wants to have happen is the superheroes to fight each other. He sweeps in, cleans them up, and then it's basically a Lex Luthor world order. Well, at the very end of the comic book, all the superheroes are rounded up fighting in this gulag. They break out. Superman and all the good guys, Batman and all his robots are there. Everybody's there in this giant mosh pit. And humanity decides, let's just go ahead and nuke and kill all the superheroes. And the bombs are dropping. Two of the bombs are destroyed, and then Shazam, who is kind of a brainwashed operative of Lex Luthor and Superman, they're fighting back and forth. Shazam has the option to stop the third nuke from going off, or help detonate it. and he stops it. Although a lot of superheroes die, he dies in the process. And at the end, Superman and a handful of people are left to reign supreme. Superman and Wonder Woman decide to have a kid, and we all live happily ever after. That's a really big Cliff Notes version. There's probably a lot of other stuff in here that I am overlooking, but that's the main point of the story. Okay, I'll tell you what I liked about it first. Let's start there. I love the art. The art is absolutely gorgeous. It is such a unique art style. I was reading about a lot of how this book came together, and one of the things I think that strikes me is the art. It's got this very distinct look to it, this very painted look to it. Everything's kind of washed out in a sense, but not in a bad way. It's not overly detailed, but I don't think it needs to be. And I think what really helps a lot is that all these superheroes are old. So Superman has a beard and a ponytail, and Batman is all old, and he's got these robotic enhancements on his arms and his legs because I guess he's all chewed up from all the years of fighting and crime. Wonder Woman's getting older, and it just really lends itself very well to that art style of a lot of kind of washed out, kind of, I don't want to say beat down, but just kind of pale looking heroes. And I like that idea, and I think that really helps accentuate the story. I did like the story. I thought it was interesting, a little out there, but again, it's an Elseworld story, so I can understand that. And that's really where my like for this ends. I think there's a lot of problems with this book. Maybe it's because everybody hyped it up as this like grand thing. Looking through the cast, and what I like about, one more thing I guess to say, what I like specifically about this presentation is that it's very, very complete. There's a lot of artist sketches on the end and character renditions on the back and alternate covers. It's got foreword written by, the people who contributed to the story, what it means to them. And then at the back, what I spent most of the time reading at the very end was it's this breakout of all the characters, and it shows who they are and what their kind of powers were. So it'll show, like, for example, some of these heroes I've never heard of. Pinwheel. He's the blade-laden, leather-clad master of pain. Or Kabuki Commando, the 4th world's Japanese champion. But it's got like a picture, so at least you can see at the end kind of a who's who. That's what I didn't like about this comic book. There were so many unknown people in here. I really just didn't care. I really didn't care that a lot of these people were fighting. They look like really bad knockoffs. Some of these guys are laughably just, their artwork really looks stupid to me. They don't look like they're villainous at all. This guy here, I don't know who he was. He's got these weird tattoos around his nipples. Right here, this guy. I don't care about him. I don't care that he's involved. I don't care. Superman would punch him and kill him instantly because he's a punk. He looks like a loser. And there's a lot of these guys in here that just look weird. Like, does this guy look menacing to you? Do any of these guys look menacing to you? Look at them. Do you think these guys would put up a fight? If Superman decided to say, hey, knock it off, I'm going to put you in jail, and which he does, by the way, in about 3 minutes or 3 panels or whatever, he pretty much clears up the world. So I never really saw them much as a threat. So this whole thing of we have to build this super prison to put these guys in, it didn't ring with me. I didn't like that. The other thing I didn't like was I didn't care for the story within the story. The whole story is told via this specter who kind of guides this one bishop through the world. And his name is Norman McKay, a minister, Norman McKay. I don't care what Norman McKay thinks. He means nothing to me. Again, he means nothing to me. This story would have been so much better if it was grounded from either Superman's point of view entirely or Batman's point of view entirely. And there's a brief snippet in the middle where Norman McKay is out of the picture, and it's just Superman, and it's really reflecting on his thoughts. He's farming. He's got his overalls on. Really cool artwork. This when Wonder Woman comes in to talk to him. And you really get to see his thoughts on things. And I really liked that because it was a great perspective from Superman's perspective. And that's the guy I care about. I don't care about Norman McKay. I don't care about this Sandman Wesley Dodds or this Ghost or Kabuki Commando. There's a lot of fluff in here. And I know people are going to say, oh, Jim, you don't understand. This is the Kingdom Come. This is all of DC. And it really should have been all of DC that matters. I think if you focused on the people that matter, this story would have gotten a lot better, in my opinion, and I would have been much more connected to the outcome. I feel that there was a lot of nonsensical characters in there. They have these Golden Age villains that were in there at one point. Catwoman and Riddler, those were really cool to see. But Vandal Savage? Who cares about Vandal Savage? That guy's just nothing. He was some throw-off character in that that really bad CW show that I quit watching. I can't remember the name of it now. Legends of Tomorrow. Captain Comet. I'm just reading through the list here of some of these names. You get my point. I feel like the tone could have been much more serious, and I would have been much more invested in, Superman's struggle if I didn't have to be constantly look at these panels of this old guy who is really there for no reason. The major turmoil in the point, in my opinion, was when Billy Batson, aka Shazam, and Captain America and Spider-Man. Oh my God, I have so many great things I want to say. When Billy Batson is fighting with Superman at the end, right? That was very interesting. Billy Batson being brainwashed and understanding that he's been a tool of Lex Luthor and that he's the only one who has the power to stop Superman. And how is he going to use that power? And when he turns at the last second and he sacrifices himself to stop the nuclear bomb, that was very entertaining. That was wow, that really got to me. Man, this guy just basically, took one for the team, literally, so that some of these guys could survive. And look, they're all down here fighting like a bunch of idiots, but I have a higher purpose. There's something I need to do. And I feel like Superman was robbed of that moment, really, because you have this old guy, this Norman McKay, who's constantly just lingering around in the background going, I don't know what to do. I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God. He just doesn't really add anything to the story. And because he's such a pivotal character in the story starts with him, and it has so many interjections just when it gets good. Nope. Now we got to switch back to Norman McKay talking with the Spectre, or the Ghost guy, I don't know what his name is. No one cares. So I did not like that. And for that's what really turned me off to the book more than anything. But I think if this story was rewritten, and I think if we looked at Golden Age heroes who, their morals have changed and society has changed and made these guys look at, what is right and what is wrong differently. And Superman really coming to terms with what his role is in the world, the man who isn't a man, who wants to be a man, who's judged by men, but is much more powerful than all of us. That's really riveting. That's really engrossing to me as a reader. And as a guy, again, who doesn't read these kind of stories, those are the gripping things that I can relate to. It doesn't matter about all these ancillary characters in the background that are fighting. They're worthless. They don't matter. Don't focus on them. Focus on the character that gives us a deep-rooted conflict, and watch us over 150, 200 pages slowly expose what the conflict is and understand. And, at the end, it is kind of a happy ending. A lot of people died. I don't know how happy that is, but that at the end of the book, Superman and Wonder Woman, the Justice League is reformed. They decide to have a kid. They understand that, they need to work with humanity, that it can't be this weird military rule, that Superman still has a lot of moral ambiguity on what he needs to do. And that is to me, that could be a great ending. I would argue an even better ending would be when Superman and Shazam were fighting and the bomb was dropping down and they're punching each other, and Superman's trying to explain to Shazam that hey, if you want this bomb to drop and kill us all, I'm ready to check out. And then maybe Shazam looks up and then it cuts to black. And you don't know if he's going to do it or not. I think that would have been a great ending too. But it seems like after that, it went on a little bit too much longer than it needed to, with a lot of exposition and a lot of nonsense that I just didn't really necessarily need. So if I had to give this book on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best thing I ever read, 1 being the worst thing I ever read, I'd probably give it a 6. And I would say that because I think the art carries a lot of it. I really did like the art, and I think that's what helps more than anything. The pacing was really good, except for all the Norman bits that just didn't really necessarily need to be. And I feel that the end probably went on a little bit longer than it should have. But I understand for somebody who is a huge fan of DC, this is really a love letter to all the DC characters, including Kabuki Commando and Leather-Clad Warrior Man, and this knockoff Batman guy who just really made me laugh. He looks like Batman without ears. I don't know what his name is. I'm going to show you him. He's prominently displayed right there below Superman. I don't know who that guy is. Those guys don't matter to me. And for that, that's what knocks the score down. To me, the gold standard in comics still has to be The Dark Knight Returns. That, to me, is a really gripping story of somebody coming to terms with, you know, they have to come back, that burning, that call back, that one more time. And I feel like this comic somehow tried to emulate that, or I don't really know which one came out first, but I feel to me like this is kind of trying to be like that, with us having to have this feel of Superman leaving, but because there's so many characters involved and because there's so much, you know, oversight of doom and gloom and the harbinger of death is coming and look at all these bad people that are dying, and suddenly there's this character named Magog who is powerful enough to, you know, fight Superman, but then he dies 5 seconds later. Nobody cares about him. I felt like my focus in the comic was constantly shifting, and I was trying to always ask myself, like, where's this going, and who am I supposed to sympathize with, and who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? And maybe, you know what, maybe that is what the story is all about. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. It went a little longer than I had planned on, but I thought it was worthwhile talking about because I know that this is kind of like, from what I've read and from what Brent has told me, this is like the classic comic book. So there you guys have it. A clueless guy reads a comic book and gives you his opinions. Am I right? Am I wrong? That's for you to decide. Throw this video a like. Throw Brent a subscription. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the funny pages.